Morning, church. Today's reading has been taken from the Gospel according to St. Luke, chapter 2, verses beginning 33 till 40. The child's father and mother marveled at what was said about him. Then Simeon blessed them and said to Mary, his mother, "This child is destined to cause the falling and rising of many in Israel, and to be a sign that will be spoken against, so that the thoughts of many hearts will be revealed, and a sword will pierce your own soul too." There was also a prophet, Anna, the daughter of Penuel of the tribe of Asher. She was very old. She had lived with her husband 7 years after her marriage, and then was a widow until she was 84. She never left the temple, but worshipped night and day, fasting and praying. Coming up to them at that very moment, she gave thanks to God and spoke about the child to all who were looking forward to the redemption of Jerusalem. When Joseph and Mary had done everything required by the law of the Lord, they returned to Galilee, to their own town of Nazareth. And the child grew and became strong. He was filled with wisdom, and the grace of God was on him. This is the word of God.
One, two, three, four. 1, 2, 3, 4. Lovely, thank you. I must admit, I tried very hard to look at this passage through the lens of Mothering Sunday. And a little bit like Ken does when he's preparing to preach, I sit there with the passage, I've got it on my computer screen, and I look at it, and I read it, and I think, and I read it, and I think, and I read it, and I think. And to be honest, coming at it through the lens of Mothering Sunday, we get dropped in the middle of the passage, and I just couldn't do it. So this is not a Mothering Sunday sermon. Apologies, but it's not. So what I did get, though, was when I got up to go and do something else, I had a sudden insight, which was about the whole story of the Bible. And the whole story of the Bible is telling us a story about two worlds that are both equally real. There's the world that we feel that we live in, the world of our senses, the world of science, the world of history, the world of technology, the world that works by the rules of all the ologies. And then there is another world which is equally real, which is the spiritual world, which is the world of God and angels and souls and spirits. And the thing is that the two worlds, they touch one another every point. And the things that happen in this world that we do in this world affect the spiritual world, and the things in the spiritual world affect the things that happen in this world. And that the whole of the Bible is the story about these two worlds, how they intersect, how they run together, how they affect each other, and how we are what C.S. Lewis calls amphibious beings. Because as human beings, we live in this world, but we also live in the spiritual world. We are spiritual beings as well. So the spiritual world is really important to us. So with the whole of the story of the Bible is a story of these two worlds living, interpenetrating one another, alongside one another. And Mary and Joseph, they were living at a point where the intersection of those two worlds was particularly intense and particularly strong. there are some really big events happening in the spiritual world and impacting this world. If I call it the real world, please forgive me, because that's just a habit in my head, and I really must get out of that. So if I say the real world, I don't mean only this world is real. So it's a really, really intense moment of the spiritual world and this world impacting one another. And if you look at the first 2 chapters of Luke, there's a sort of heightened quality to it. It's almost like a musical, because you get a happening and then you get a song, and then you get another happening and you get another song, and then you get the angels singing. And then, in this story that we've been dropped into the middle of, you get another song. So, let's take us up, because we've been dropped in the middle of this particular little story, to what's going on. So, Jesus has been born in Bethlehem. And then, about a week later, he's been circumcised. And then, at the age of about 6 weeks, Mary is, because she's had a son, she can go to the temple for a purification ceremony. And also the baby is going to be dedicated to God because he's a firstborn son. So this is all part of the Jewish law. So they go from Bethlehem to Jerusalem, and it's about 9 kilometers or 5.5 miles. Now, one of the important things is that this is a story about things happening in this world. We can find the places. We know where the places were. We know pretty much what the dates were. These are events that are happening in this world, as well as very important spiritual events. And then at the end of the story, they go from Jerusalem up to Nazareth in Galilee. And as Ken pointed out last week, the distance is a bit longer than the crow flies, because they'd have had to go around to the west to avoid most of Samaria. So these are real events happening in real country. And this is a model of the temple that they went to visit. The temple is enormous. You can see the size of the gates on it. This is the eastern face that's pointing towards us. You can see in the middle of the eastern wall the steps going up to an enormous gate. There are also steps up on the... lost it. On the southwest corner, there are steps going. We've lost that. But if you can spot over that there, are we coming back? All the way around the outside, there is an arcade with a colonnade where there is shade, where there are stalls which sell coins that can be used in the temple to give to the temple treasuries. There are people selling animals which are certified good for sacrificing. So there are people with goats and sheep and bulls. There are people selling grain, there are people selling wine, there are people selling oil, all of these things that can be sacrificed. And then you go into the middle part of the temple. It's possibly less than a third of the area, and the bit over towards you on the eastern side is the courtyard of the women. And so the courtyard around the outside, the big courtyard around the outside, is called the courtyard of the Gentiles, and people who aren't Jewish are allowed in there. The bit that's over towards you is the courtyard of the women. Jewish women are allowed in there. And so Mary will have gone, and she actually, because she wasn't very well off, she bought 2 pigeons. If she'd been wealthy, she would have been asked to bring a lamb and a pigeon, but because she wasn't very well off, she had 2 pigeons. And she would have brought the pigeons out from the outside courtyard. And she and Joseph would have brought the 2 pigeons and the baby into the courtyard of the women, and then up towards the part that was further away from you, which is the the inner courtyard. And there they would have handed over the two pigeons to be sacrificed. Are we getting pictures? Anyway, the priest would have then taken the 2 pigeons and broken their necks and then burned them on the altar, because I've got a bit obsessed with the temple, because the place where the animals were slaughtered was not the altar. The animals were not slaughtered on the altar. They were slaughtered in a separate place, and then bits of them were taken to be burnt on the altar to offer, with incense, to offer a pleasant smell to the Lord. So the smoke was supposed to rise up to symbolize prayers. So it was a smelly and a noisy and a very busy place. And oh, here it is. Thank you. So we've got colonnade around the outside, courtyards of the Gentiles on both sides, very big area. Courtyard of the women inside the central walled area towards us, and then the inner court around the holy place and the very holy place, or Holy of Holies, at the back. So again, it was a real place. This happened in a real place, in a place where there is archaeology that reveals what it was like, as well as it being a spiritual event. And the reason that they went there was because it was ordained by the law. Because the law was one of the ways that God had, one of the things that God had given to the Jewish people to make them special, to make them know they were special. It was because of the law. So obedience to the law was something that the people of Israel did as an offering to God. The law covered every aspect of life. If there is an aspect of life that you can think of, the law covers it. Every single aspect of life. There's nothing you could do without the law touching it and reminding you of God's grace. It gave the Jewish people constant opportunities to choose to obey, whether it was through habit or whether it was a conscious choice or how they chose. They got this constant opportunity to obey. And obeying is and choosing to obey is one of the most important spiritual things that we can do. I think it was one of the big spiritual insights in Harry Potter, that it's not who we are, but the choices that we make that are important. So it gave constant opportunities to choose to obey. And the third thing I want to bring out was that the people of Israel had to build their life around their faith, not their faith around their life. So we had some friends come to visit us from Israel, and they were with us over the weekend, and this was when we were living in Plymouth. Roger took Bob to the synagogue on Saturday morning, because Bob couldn't drive on a Saturday and he couldn't walk that distance on a Saturday because they were prescribed by the law. And then Roger said to him, "Well, can you phone me when you want me to come and collect me up?" And Bob said, "No, I can't phone you, because phoning you would be using a machine, and that's operating machine, and that's against the law on the Sabbath." So we had to negotiate this arrangement whereby Roger would just go and be there at the time when he thought it would open, but that it would end, but nobody knew exactly when it was going to end. So it was just a little example of how you have to organize your life around your faith, rather than having to arrange your faith around what makes things easy and convenient. And how you have to put your faith first and fit the rest of your life around it. Okay, this is Solomon's song, this Simeon's song. Just incidentally, this is what Mary and Joseph were marveling at, and there's no actually says in the Bible that Simeon was old, which I find quite interesting. We have this stories generally told about Simeon being old. It doesn't say he was old. He just said, okay, I'm ready to die now that I've seen Jesus, because being ready to die was not a thing that was sort of central in Jewish faith. And he just says, I have seen the salvation of the Lord, and now I'm ready to die. So that is why the child's father and mother marveled. They thought this was incredible. And then Simeon says, the child is destined to cause the falling and rising of many in Israel, and to be a sign that will be spoken against, so the thoughts of many hearts will be revealed, and a sword will pierce your own soul too. So what Simeon says is the Spirit was on him, and he was speaking, and through the Holy Spirit he said, what is happening now has consequences, and the consequences are going to continue. It will be the raising and falling of many in Israel. What's this spiritual event is going to have consequences that are long-lasting. There are going to be ripples going out into the world. Secondly, the thoughts of the hearts will be revealed. There is going to be truth. Secrets are going to be revealed. That there will be that the world become a place where there is more truth because of these events that are happening now, these spiritual events. And also he said to Mary, your own soul will be pierced with a sword. There's going to be personal consequences for you from these events. It's not just going to be the world going on and earth shattering things are going to happen, but you are going to have things happen to you. So they're going to be personal consequences. And then Simeon left, and this extremely old lady called Anna arrived. We don't know exactly what it is she said to them, and we don't know that she was exactly 84, because 84 is a very symbolic number, meaning an awful lot. It's being 7 times 12, but it's a very symbolic number. It just means she was very old, but she never left the temple, but worshipped night and day, fasting and praying, and she gave thanks to God and spoke to the child about the child to all who were looking forward to the redemption of Jerusalem. So what we can take about Anna, we can take her devotion, how she was constantly in the temple. She was always wanting to be in the presence of her God. She wasn't just wanting to be one day in the courts of the Lord. She was wanting to be all of her 84 years in the courts of the Lord if she could. Every day she was there. She was completely devoted to the Lord. Her worship, her praying and fasting, she was worshipping the Lord in the courts. The spiritual disciplines that she was that she was undertaking, that she wasn't just obeying the law, she was also carrying out extra spiritual disciplines. And this was giving her immense spiritual strength. It's like your spiritual life is like a muscle. The more you work it, the stronger it gets. And finally, when she saw Jesus, she gave thanks to the Lord. She thanked God, and then she gave witness. She went and told everybody. So this is what, they're not as nicely organised as Ken's were last week. But the challenges to us out of this passage. Do we give ourselves constant reminders of God's grace? Have we set up our lives so that we are constantly reminded of God's grace? That there are things that tell us who we are in God and what God has done for us? Do we take up our constant opportunities to choose to obey? Because we don't have the law, but we have the 10 Commandments. We have the 2 great commandments to love God with all our heart and all our soul and all our mind and all our strength, and to love our neighbours as ourselves. So we do have constant opportunities to obey God. Do we build our life around our faith, or do we build our faith around our life? And when something is pushing, which one gives? That's a challenge. Are we seeing the consequences, the ripples going out of our spiritual lives? Are we seeing spiritual things that have happened in our lives, then having consequences in other people's lives going out into the world? Are we seeing truth increasing in our lives? Are we being more truthful with the thoughts of our hearts? Are we acknowledging what our hearts think? Is there more truth in our lives? Are there personal consequences to our faith? Is our faith changing us? Is our faith changing the way we feel, changing the way we think, changing the way we do things? And sometimes it's painful. It was like a sword in Mary's soul. Sometimes it is painful because love makes us vulnerable. But that is a consequence, can be a consequence of faith. And as Ian read in the psalm, that the righteous will have troubles, but the Lord will rescue them. Are we devoted? Are we trying always to be in God's presence? Are we trying to spend not just our one day on God's courts, but are we trying to spend every day in God's courts and take God's presence with us wherever we go? Where are we on spiritual disciplines, on worship, on praying and on fasting? Are we exploring spiritual disciplines? Are we trying to exercise our spiritual muscles to build up our spiritual lives? And thanksgiving and witness. We bring thanks to the Lord here, and we give witness here during testimony time. And I think that's brilliant. And can we express our thanksgiving and witness in the world? Thank you.
Thank you, Wendy, for sharing with us. There's a lot there to take away with us.